I don't know of a single person who loves road construction. It's one of those things that once it's done, it's great, and the traffic flows freely, and the roads are just the way they're supposed to be, nice and smooth. But that time, first of all, it seems like it takes forever. And then you never know what lane you're supposed to be in. And then there's all of those barrels and cones sitting in front of you, and it just is a pain. Road construction is a nightmare. But road construction doesn't happen overnight. Once those cones start going up or the barrels appear, you know they're going to be there for a season or more. We're in this for the long haul. Road construction is major and it takes time. And this is what John the Baptist is talking about. This is what the scriptures are talking about from the Old Testament. That we need to make a way that is straight when it is windy. We need to take down the hills that are in the way. We need to level the ground that is a deep valley. We need to move earth in order to get ready for the coming of the Savior. Advent preparation for the coming of Christ is not something that we ought to take lightly. And it's not something that we might just give a passing thought to every now and again. Or maybe sort of like a resolution that, well, I think I'll do this thing, or maybe I'll think about that, or I've got a few things to get ready. The kind of preparation that John the Baptist is preaching, that the prophet Isaiah made known, or Baruch made known, was that we need to do major road construction. We need to tear down mountains, and we need to fill up the valleys. And this is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens in 4 weeks. This is something that involves deep and lasting change. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time to do that. And it invites us into a place that we don't want to go. We don't want to go into that place of road construction. We don't want to have to go through the effort of major change and turmoil. We don't want to have to wait it out. Patience is the virtue, I think, that Advent most exemplifies, that our hearts need probably most. Because we have to be patient with the waiting. And we have to be patient with the time it takes to change. And of course, it's God who is going to affect the change within us. But you and I have to tear down the obstacles, or fill up the obstacles, or straighten the winding obstacles. Whatever it is, you and I have to pull those things down so that God can come in and do the real work of change. That kind of road construction, that kind of change that our lives are looking for, invites us maybe to go a little deeper into things this Advent than maybe we thought. Now, Advent is not the same as Lent. Lent is a whole different kind of penitential season. But they do share a number of things in common. And one of the things that they share is a time of inward looking and return to God. Like, where have I left God's presence? Where have I gotten comfortable in my own perspective or my own little world or my own way of doing things? Where am I okay to be? And where have I wandered away from God? And it's finding those places that need to be torn up. And not just for a time, and not just, well, I'll do this for a while, and I'll kind of get myself ready for Christmas. This is a lifelong change. What we begin in Advent is not going to finish on December 25th. What we begin in Advent is going to carry us on through the rest of our lives, or it should anyway. It should be the kind of conversion that is radical. John the Baptist was not an ordinary guy. He was not a mild-mannered, meek individual. John the Baptist was a radically strange individual. And I imagine he grew up pretty well off. We know his father was one of the priests who served in the temple, and when Mary went to visit Elizabeth, the servants are there. So we see that he probably grew up in a pretty well-to-do, or at least okay, household. And something in his life moved him to leave all of that and to go out into the desert and to live as this sort of wild man whose preaching was off the wall. And you have to imagine Zechariah and Elizabeth's friends saying, "What is wrong with your child? What did you do to him to cause him to go set up his camp in the wilderness and to be preaching like he does?" They had to think that this guy was somewhat strange or crazy. But it was that kind of strangeness and craziness that got people's attention. It was that kind of outlandishness that drew people to him. He wasn't just another voice. He wasn't just another preacher. He wasn't just another one of the many who were doing whatever they were doing. He was radically different. And he called people to a radically different life. And deep, deep down, that's what we want. I mean, on the one hand, we like it when our backs are patted. We like the affirmation. But on the other hand, we yearn for the truth. And we want to hear it. And we want to be challenged by it. And we want to be more authentic ourselves. And sometimes that means someone's got to come along and tear down the wall and rip away the shades and show us exactly who we are and what we're about. This is the kind of radical preaching that John preached. And this is what he says to us today, that we need to engage in road construction. We need to be ready to make a radical change in my life. And so as you and I hear his preaching and go deeper into this Advent, we ask ourselves, what are my particular obstacles? What are those things that I know I really struggle with and I could overcome them if I just did this or that thing, or if I just laid it over to God in this way? There are things out there that trouble us, that tempt us, that change us, that we're not ready to let go of. Like, yeah, if I gave up some screen time, I would be better. If I took more prayer time, I would be better. If I engaged in more charitable works, I would be better. But I just haven't done it yet. This is the time for road construction, to make a radical change. And I think Christians today, in a particular way, especially Catholics, boy, our world needs this. Because the Christian gospel has been so watered down in society today, with so many different voices claiming to be Christian and preaching Christian values, and they all contradict one another. That this Christian voice says this is okay, and that Christian voice disagrees with them and says, no, this is the way it is, and that Christian voice says another thing, and you get a cacophony, a mess of messages, and it completely takes away the message of Jesus Christ. So I think if we're going to be true to John the Baptist, if we're going to be true to ourselves and our Catholic faith, we can't be like other Christians. We just can't. We have to be the Christians. We have to be the church in the world. We have to speak the message of the gospel. And we have to be bold about it. We have to live differently. And we have to be a different people. And it's unfortunate sometimes that we let ourselves be taken away by what other Christians say or by what the world around us says. In some sense, we have to reject that. One of the things that has troubled me deeply is talking to people of faith, talking to other Catholics about the lingering stuff going on in their minds and hearts still about this darn election. That I struggle with people in my family who voted the other way. I struggle to understand that other party and what they're doing, or that leader and what he or she is doing. I struggle. I hate them. I am angry with them. I want things to be so different. People, that has to stop. We have to live a different gospel. We cannot be that. We cannot be angry with our brothers and sisters in that way. We cannot hate another person. I cannot say he is evil or she is evil. We cannot do that because that is not the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus came to say, love your enemies and forgive those who are against you. And if you have a problem with that, get up and leave because this is not the place for you. We have to change our minds and our hearts. We have to be radically different. I have to forgive the person that is against me. I have to understand the person that I don't comprehend. I have to love the person I think is my enemy because Jesus said so. And if I don't, I fail the gospel. I should not be receiving communion because I am not living, as St. Paul says, to be love in the world. We have to be radically different. We cannot be politicized. We cannot be against. We have to be the bridge builders. We have to be the reconcilers. We have to be the forgivers. We have to understand one another and help each other to understand. I think Luke is masterful in the way he presents John the Baptist today because he begins by introducing all of the world powers. Here was the emperor and the governor and the kings. Here were the religious leaders, and John doesn't care about any of them. They don't affect his life in one way. They should not affect ours as well. Our religious leaders, our political leaders should not affect us and how we live the gospel. Because you and I are going to be the ones that change the world, not them. You and I are going to change the world because this is the world I'm going to change. I'm going to let love reign here. I'm going to let peace reign here. Justice is going to be here. Forgiveness is going to be here. And when that is lived radically, like John the Baptist, people will see it and they will be attracted because they will know it's true. It's different. It's radically different from what other people and other Christians are preaching. We have an opportunity to shine like light in the darkness if we let the gospel change us, but not in a passing way, not in a way that's just going to, in December 25th, is going to go away, in a way that makes me different for the rest of my life. Nobody likes road construction, but we need to be ready for it. So start putting up the cones, start setting up the orange barrels, and tear your life apart so that it can be made new. And it's going to take time to change those mindsets and to change that heart. It takes time to let God work on us and make us different. But we have to do it. John was not a mild-mannered preacher. And I wanted you to get your money's worth today. So I have to give you John's message. Be ready to root up your life and change it radically. Otherwise, we're just not getting ready for the coming of Christ. It's the only way he can get in if we tear everything else down.